Gumboot Gamblers is a story that captures the rugged spirit of prospectors during the Cedar Creek gold strike in northwest Montana, just before the devastating Northwestern fires of 1910. It's a tale that blends the raw, untamed wilderness with the bold ambitions of men who risked it all for the chance of fortune. Cedar Creek, nestled deep in the Bitterroot Range of Montana, became a hotspot for gold seekers in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. By the time the story of the Gumboot Gamblers unfolds, the area was already teeming with hopefuls who'd come to wrest riches from the earth. It was a land of towering trees, rushing streams, and the ever-present promise of gold, a land both bountiful and unforgiving. Among the Gumboot Gamblers was a core group of characters whose fates were intertwined with the Cedar Creek strike. There was Angus "Red" McAllister, a Scotsman with a fiery temper and an uncanny ability to find veins of gold where others saw only rock. He had journeyed from the goldfields of California to the Klondike before making his way south to Montana. Red was a leader, not by choice but by necessity. His natural instincts in the wilderness and his sheer will to survive made him a beacon for others who needed guidance. Another key figure was Lyle "Whiskey" O'Hara, an Irishman who had traded the bottle for a pickaxe, though not completely. He was known for his tall tales, quick wit, and a propensity for stirring up trouble. Whiskey O'Hara was the life of the campfire, the one who kept the men going even when spirits were low. Despite his love for storytelling, O'Hara had a deep knowledge of geology passed down through generations of Irish miners, and it was this expertise that often saved the gamblers from falling for fool's gold. One of the youngest in the group was Will "Pup" Cavanaugh, a farm boy from the plains of Nebraska who had come west seeking adventure. He was green, wide-eyed, and full of hope, qualities that the others, hardened by years of disappointment and hardship, had mostly lost. But it was Pup's enthusiasm that kept the older men from giving up when the going got tough. The Cedar Creek gold strike wasn't a major discovery in the grand history of mining in Montana. The yields were modest, but enough to keep the miners there, always chasing that one big score. The gamblers spent weeks on end digging through rock, sifting through mud, and washing gravel in their sluice boxes. They worked in shifts, enduring long hours under the blazing sun or torrential rain, with only the thought of striking it rich to keep them going. As time passed, the gamblers forged bonds not only with each other but also with the wilderness that surrounded them. The Bitterroot Range was a place of great beauty and danger. Wolves howled at night, bears prowled the forests, and the weather could change in an instant. Many men had disappeared in these mountains, claimed by the cold, hunger, or simply the sheer vastness of the land. But for the Gumboot Gamblers, this wild country became a second home, its dangers a part of their daily routine. One of the most gripping parts of their story was their encounter with a rival group of miners, the Thompson brothers. The Thompsons were notorious for their underhanded tactics, and they had a history of jumping claims, intimidating other miners, and using violence to get what they wanted. The Gumboot Gamblers found themselves in a bitter feud with the Thompsons after Whiskey O'Hara discovered a promising new claim along a tributary of Cedar Creek. It was here that the tension between the two groups boiled over, leading to a deadly confrontation in the shadow of the mountains. The feud reached its climax in the dead of winter, with the snow piling high and supplies running low. The gamblers knew that if they didn't make their stand, the Thompsons would take not only their gold but their lives. In a fierce gunfight, fought in the blinding snow, the Gumboot Gamblers defended their claim, but not without loss. Pup Cavanaugh, the bright-eyed youngster, was fatally wounded, and his death left a scar on the group that never fully healed. As spring came, the group found itself on the verge of a major breakthrough. Red McAllister had pinpointed a rich vein of gold deeper in the hills, and it seemed as though their persistence was finally about to pay off. They worked furiously, pulling more gold from the earth than they had in all the months prior. But then came the summer of 1910, a season that would forever change the landscape of the Northwest. The forests around Cedar Creek had been growing drier by the day, the underbrush brittle and the air thick with the smell of pine needles. Lightning strikes ignited small fires, which quickly grew out of control. By August, the Great Fire of 1910, one of the largest wildfires in American history, was tearing through Montana, Idaho, and Washington. The Gumboot Gamblers were caught in the midst of it. As the flames roared through the forest, the men had no choice but to flee. They grabbed what little gold they could carry and ran for their lives, leaving behind their camp, their tools, and any hopes of further riches. The fire consumed everything in its path, and by the time it was over, the Cedar Creek mining district was nothing more than a charred wasteland. In the aftermath of the fire, the gamblers scattered. Some, like Red McAllister, returned to the mountains, determined to start again, while others, like Whiskey O'Hara, drifted away, their dreams of gold turned to ash. The story of the Gumboot gamblers ended not in triumph, but in survival, a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who braved the wilderness in search of fortune. Though the gold strike at Cedar Creek faded into history, the legend of the Gumboot gamblers lived on, passed down through the stories of those who remembered the men who gambled their lives on the promise of gold, and who, in the end, found something even more valuable: the will to endure.